mentor, I work with teenage girls every day, and I see how much they're struggling with focus, connection, and confidence. Their mental health is declining right before our eyes, and I don't need a peer-reviewed study to confirm this for me. These girls openly share that they're on their phones at school, in the bathrooms, during class, lunchtime, and everywhere in between. Let's be honest. We are far from being a cell phone-free environment. Many of them wish they didn't have their phones at all because they know, just like we do, how much these devices pull them away from what truly matters. But they don't have the tools or the authority to change this on their own. That's why I'm here, alongside so many of the parents, to advocate for them and to urge all of us to take a step towards something better. This isn't just a parenting issue or a school problem. This is a societal crisis. And while we wait for decades of research to give us the proof we need, our kids are suffering. As a dietitian in the healthcare field for the past 23 years, I've been down this road before, waiting 15 years for evidence-based research to confirm what we already knew was harmful. Anyone who has a phone knows the distractions and addictive habits that come along with them. All I'm advocating for is that we give students the opportunity to experience a truly cell phone-free environment for 7 full hours a day. A chance to focus on learning, socializing, playing, whatever happened to playing anymore at school, and communicating the entire day without cell phones as distractions, and allow educators to teach without the constant battle of these cell phones. Research already shows the harmful impact of phones on attention, learning, and mental health. Schools across the US and many other countries have gone phone-free and seen improvements in academic performance, social connections, and overall well-being. Listen, I really do love this community. But the big question is, why in a community that prides itself in leadership are we falling so far behind? I know along with everybody else in this room that we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Bill Hudson.
So, William Hudson, I've been on St. James Court for 40 years now. I'm just here to ask you to move along with the nature as soon as you can. The friends we're looking forward to cooperating with you. We'd love to get it open again. There are hundreds of kids. Every parent we talked to that had a kid and didn't know about it. Went with the farmer's market. Just was in love with the idea. There are people asking us what they can do, significant contributions to the nature area, things that need to be fixed, things that could be added. We can't. They're anxiously waiting to go, and they can't do anything right now. So hope you have an update on the next board meeting. We'd really like to get going with you. It's a real plus for the whole community, and hope we can move forward as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have Steve Danziger.
Hello, everybody. President Hoxie and members of the board. Steve Danziger on the board of directors of the nature area at Wagner Ranch and a 30-year resident of Orinda. Both my boys went through all the schools here. I just want to give you an update following Bill here. Yesterday, the nature area had almost 30 volunteers. Most of those were from a group called Boys Team Charity. They put gravel on paths to make it safer, and they put wood chips down around our new boxes that were built by some Eagle Scouts. And we also had two women there, two young girls who want to do Eagle projects at the nature area, probably in the garden area if they can, and tourists met with them. We're setting them up. I also want to ask you, someone on the board, maybe at the end of the meeting, when you asked about future agenda items, following up on Bill as well, if you can put the nature area update on the agenda for next meeting. And we will hopefully by then be able to answer some questions that have been posed by the superintendent regarding the nature area and the progress that the Friends are making to reach an agreement to what we'll provide there. And finally, recently, the school district assessed a facilities fee on the Friends of the Nature area, $55 every time we go down there on Sundays. We've been working there for over 20 years. This is the first time we have to pay a fee. You have a right to do it, as the superintendent told us, and I understand it. I'm asking the board to take action to do the right thing and to waive that fee. We can afford the fee. I'll write the checks if I need to. But we've done thousands and thousands of hours of work there. We maintain the nature area. We make improvements. We've been busy there, and it looks fantastic right now. And so just asking if you do put this on the agenda, that you have an opportunity to discuss possibly waiving that $55 fee, which seems pretty petty and inappropriate. I've been a volunteer in this community for pretty much all 30 years, and I've never heard of a fee put on volunteers to work at a facility that you own. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim Smith.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jim Smith, and my family's lived in Orinda for 27 years. And we're right next to Delray School. And I just wanted to talk about the movie that was played on Friday night into school. It was outside, and it was extremely loud. I've worked in construction and been in charge of health and safety on many a work site. And I can tell you it was above 120 decibels. And I kind of went over there and looked, and I noticed that like all the children were like not watching the movie. It was a very small turnout. They were all like basically as far away from the movie as possible. So I'm thinking that it probably hurt their little ears. And you know, when we moved here 27 years ago, we were moving next to an elementary school, so we expected there to be children playing in the yard and sports in the afternoons, weekends, and all that. But we really didn't expect it to become a drive-in theater. I don't really think I believe it violates the noise ordinance for the city. And if I read the first sentence in the noise ordinance, it says, the purpose of this chapter is to promote and preserve the peace and tranquility characteristic of a semi-rural environment while accommodating reasonable activities which tend to produce noise by regulating the days, hours, and source of the activities. So I looked at the ordinance, and I really don't think showing a cartoon on a Friday night when we've all had a hard week, we come home, family wants to sit and relax, and just hear this blaring noise for over 2 hours. I just feel that it's not a reasonable activity. If the board feels it is a reasonable activity, I would ask that the movie be shown in the auditorium. And it can be on, whenever, but be in the auditorium with the doors closed. The amount of people that were watching the movie could easily have fit into that auditorium. So I'm just asking that this not become just like a routine, so that on nights and weekends, we just hear this blare. I also think that if for some reason you decide to continue this, that there be a decibel meter, because it was definitely in the, above 120 decibels. And like I say, I have many years' experience working in health and safety, and it was just an unsafe level.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Next, I have Bergen Woodbury.
Hi everyone, I'm Bergen. I have 2 kids in the Orinda school system. We've lived here for about 10 years. My son Alex is an autistic 5th grader at Wagner Ranch. And since starting at Wagner in kindergarten, his education has been greatly enhanced by access to the special day class. For folks who aren't acquainted, the special day class was, until this year, the only classroom in all of Orinda's 4 elementary schools that's specifically designed to support kids with special needs. The special day class allowed him to stay in his neighborhood school, where he built friendships with both neurotypical and neurodivergent kids. He is different, but he thrived, and I've been told by many parents that including someone like him greatly improved their child's education. They learned a lot from being exposed to his unique view of the world and talents and differences. And as such, I was really surprised to learn that the school board completely eliminated the special day class, leaving Orinda's many special needs kids with nowhere to turn. I'm concerned that the process unfolded without meaningful parental or community involvement. And then I was even more surprised to be told then that my options are now to move Alex in the middle of his final 5th grade year to a different school district, a different town, or to stay in Orinda with significantly less services that he depends on. So I'm here tonight to voice my strong opposition to the elimination of the special day class and to go over a couple reasons for reinstating it that the board may not have considered. The first is that special needs students often struggle to fit in and make friends. Forcing Orinda's special needs kids to switch to another campus presents an undue hardship on their social development and destroys the fragile bonds and friendships that they struggled over years to make. Second, the kids who use the SDC, many of them experience profound difficulty with changes in setting and routine. Their educational progress requires consistency, and they're especially vulnerable to changes in their community and their peers. Third, specifically at Wagner, the gym and the garden are accessible and they're havens for many special needs kids. And, fourth, Orinda's special needs students should be allowed to attend the schools in their towns, just like the neurotypical students do. And removing them from their community and their local school undercuts of educational best practice, less restrictive environment, and places an additional burden on special needs parents. I don't know how many of our board members here tonight are the parents of special needs kids, but I can tell you that getting them dressed and to school in the morning can be fraught. Getting them to a new school that's over an hour away in traffic and currently does not have a certified special ed teacher is something else entirely. So thank you so much for having me. My hope is that this is the beginning of a productive dialogue about reinstating the special needs classroom so that all of Orinda kids can truly belong here and stay here instead of being removed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Next, I have Jennifer Chen.
Good evening, Anita and fellow board members. My name is Jennifer Chen. I'm the parent of 3 children, Nina, who is awaiting TK placement with an IEP in progress, Stefan, a 2nd grader at Wagner Elementary, and Phoebe Jen, who attends Orinda Intermediate. My daughter Nina, who is 4.5 years old, is a bright, loving child with mild to moderate ASD, and we're exploring a possible concern for ADHD. Throughout this process, we've been incredibly fortunate to work with Stephanie, who has been a source of kindness and guidance as we navigate the IEP process. After many challenges, I'm relieved to say that Nina will finally begin her much-needed ABA therapy this Wednesday. I've been a part of the Wagner Elementary community for 3 years, and it has truly become a second home for us. I've had the pleasure of volunteering and witnessing firsthand the dedication of teachers, administrators, and staff who go above and beyond for the students. That's why I was shocked to learn after our second IEP meeting that our OUSD currently does not have an STC special day classroom available. I was heartbroken when I attended Wagner's open house and saw a slide celebrating our district that we are the top 1% performing district in the nation, while realizing that we lack resources like SDC room for our most vulnerable students. Over the past month, I've had the opportunity to connect with many, many families in the OUSD who are also navigating in the IEP assessments, struggling to access necessary resources. It's become clear that Stephanie is clearing a huge amount of load, supporting over 100 families, which reflects a growing need for much more support and resources in our district. I am here today because I want to advocate for special education resources that meets the needs of our community. I recently toured John Muir Elementary in Martinez, which was presented as our only option for me. While Stephanie graciously arranged for me to meet with their IEP director in Martinez, I had significant concerns. The school does address Nina's needs like elopement issues. They have 8-foot secure fencing. Everything is gated. More importantly, as a single mother with 3 children attending different schools, managing therapies, all activities, sending Nina to a school in another district just simply is not feasible. Our time at Wagner has been a blessing. My children and I have built deep connections within this community and has truly become our home. So far, my son has grown more empathetic and supportive of his sister Nina, especially after participating in Diverse Ability Awareness Week. The thought of separating them is just painful. Stefan will no longer be able to check on Nina during recess or lunch. And I will lose the community support that has been a lifeline for me during these challenging times. Moving Nina to a school where I don't know any of the teachers or parents, it just would be isolating for both of us. In the past month, I focused on using positive reinforcements during my custodial time. I take Nina to everywhere, like the sportatorium, volleyball, science, and local parks, and her tantrum has been decreased to 0 for the last month. She's now speaking more, following my lead, participating in activities for longer periods. Her progress has been remarkable. Some parents have asked me, why am I fighting so hard for an SDC room if I believe Nina can thrive in a mainstream environment? My answer is simple. I'm not just fighting for my daughter, but for all the children who are currently undergoing assessments and for those who will follow. These children deserve a home within OUSD, not to be sent to another district like Martinez. I recently heard that Wagner once had an STC classroom but recently it was just closed this year, and that it might reopen if 5 students require it. Is that true? I don't know. I personally know several families here who are in the assessment process and who would greatly benefit from this resource. I'm here today to voice the urgent need for an SDC classroom in our district, not just for my daughter, but for the many other children who need these services. It is your basic right to receive an education that meets their needs, especially in a district that prides itself on being among the top performing in the nation. OUSD has demonstrated a commitment to diversity and inclusion, as seen through initiatives like Diverse Abilities Awareness Week, which have had a profound impact.
I'm so sorry, but you've gone significantly over your time. And I appreciate your coming and sharing your concerns. And believe me, the board is hearing everything you're saying, and you're welcome to email your thoughts to the board so they can read them separately. But I can't take any more of the meeting's time tonight because I have to give everyone the same amount of time. So I apologize for cutting you off, but thank you very much for coming tonight.
And I'll follow up with the answers. Yeah, thank you. There's no more public comment.
Okay. Thank you all very much for coming and sharing your comments with us. We hear everything you say. It's a challenge for us to not be able to respond. That's just
I can
ground act,
imagine.
but Aida has been paying attention and she will follow up. And I want to thank you. And now we're going to move on to our action item, Resolution 2510, Native American Heritage Month. You can find it.
Yes, so the board has the printed resolution and we would like for you to read it if possible. This is the first time we're actually bringing this resolution to the board and recognizing this month as a Native American Heritage Month.
Thank you for bringing it to us. Going to give everyone a moment to regroup. Okay.
Whereas this country was home to generations of indigenous peoples long before the arrival of European explorers, and each of these tribes had a unique and vibrant culture, as well as a system of social order. And
whereas the European settlers were aided in their survival by the teachings of this country's first inhabitants and the contributions of the Native Americans to this nation's government, history, and culture are as numerous and varied as the tribes themselves. And
whereas each tribe has celebrated heroes of their own in sports, the arts, film, literature, engineering, medicine, education, and environmental science. And
whereas the American culture has been greatly influenced by traditions of indigenous peoples and their close relationship to the earth and all of its inhabitants. And
whereas the California State Board of Education recognizes in its multicultural education policy that each student needs an opportunity to understand the common humanity underlying all people, to develop pride in his or her own identity and heritage, and to understand, respect, and accept the identity and heritage of others. And
whereas the California Education Code, Section 51204.5, specifically calls for instruction in the social sciences to include the study of the role and contributions of Native Americans to the economic and social development of California and the nation, with particular emphasis on portraying the role of Native Americans in contemporary society. And
whereas the History Social Science Framework for California Public Schools, transitional kindergarten through grade 12, states that the history curriculum of community, state, region, nation, and world must reflect the experiences of all people and of different racial, religious, and ethnic groups, which is integrated at every level. And
therefore be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees does hereby adopt this resolution to honor November 2024 as Native American Heritage Month. So with that being read, do any board members have any thoughts or questions on this resolution?
I think it's wonderful. As we teach it, the curriculum in our schools, so it's wonderful. Thank you for bringing this.
I second that.
Absolutely. And I assume that there's a robust curriculum that goes along with it, or?
We're working on making it more
Robust,
robust and recognizing and pronouncing and making sure that everybody's aware of the resolution. And actually just last week, as we were walking around the different classrooms at Wagner, it was actually great to see some teachers highlight, they didn't know we were passing this resolution and
Right.
were able to witness it in practice. So that was really great to see it. So there are embedded curricula and recognitions, which is when we're in our equity committee working, this is actually the focus to make sure that there is curriculum aligned to every resolution every month.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Are there any public comments on this?
There's no public comment.
Would someone like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2510, the Native American Heritage Month?
That I move that we approve Resolution 2510, Native American Heritage Month.
this is Katie, I second.
Trustee Weiner? Aye. Trustee Shogan?
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman?
Aye.
President Hoxie?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So next, we have the single plans for student achievement.
Okay, we have very special guests to do our presentation this evening, and we're very excited about this. So every June, the board goes through the LCAP presentation, and in the fall, we have our principals presenting our single plans for student achievement. And we've started this wonderful tradition of all of them working together in an alignment, which is great. It's a highly collaborative process. And they will present to you. So I think actually, without further ado, I'll have them present, and then we can go through and have any questions that you might have. So just pull this up, and please come on up. And yeah,
Thank you all so much for being here tonight.
you can just give me a second. gently loads up and we'll get there, yeah. Hi, everyone. You can introduce yourself, sure. Maybe as you. Not your first time here, so that's good. There we go. All right, here we go. Okay.
Hey, hi, I'm Stacy Wayne, principal of Intermediate School. We're here to present our single school plan for student achievement, also known as the SIPSA, or more commonly referred to as the site plan. And I think all of you are aware that in previous years, we had sort of individual goals. And we now align our goals so that we all have the same site goals that are aligned to the district's goals, which are aligned to the strategic directions. And I think I need to stop talking because I'm going to this meeting. So, as I just mentioned, we have aligned our site goals to the strategic directions. The fourth one.
Do I keep going?
The next one's Patsy.
Okay.
So I'll just say one more thing about this slide, which is that we have 3 cycles, if you probably noticed, are aligned to the first of the 3 strategic directions. So the first is in support of student-centered learning. The second one is in support of a community of belonging. And then the third one is in support of our dedicated staff, or teacher and staff professional development. Thank you, Stacy, principal of OIS. I'm Patsy Templeton, principal of Sleepy Hollow. And Kevin, can you just move it one more slide?
I'll go ahead and do that, yep. Go ahead.
Somebody magically just moved it. So as Stacy mentioned, the strategic directions give us the foundation or the umbrella under which everything falls, and that's our mission statement for the district. So there it is, a learning community that inspires and engages and supports all students. So that's our big idea. And if you flip it right back, then you've got a flow chart. You can see mission statement and then strategic directions. The blue oval is really where we're going to be focusing today, and that is the single plan for student achievement, the SIPSA, as we like to call it. With that, as we've mentioned, we look at our district goals, LCAP goals, and then we decide on our site goals. All of us have the same site goals, so we are aligned in that direction. Moving on to the next slide, we actually take those site goals to our sites and we develop what we call action steps. And that really means at our site, what are the action steps that really mean the most to us in order to adhere to that particular goal? It has to do with what we notice in our classrooms and what we notice with our own data. So we spend our time with our sites developing those action steps. We also then take those ideas for action steps to the site council. Site council is made up of parents and staff as well. We also peruse, again, those action steps, those ideas for action steps. We develop the final set of action steps. We try to get to maybe 3 to 5 action steps per goal. And then the site council approves them and then we bring them to the board. So that's the process that we go through. Going through each of the specific site goals is Maple's and Megan's job.
Maple Live, principal of Delray. So kind of what Patsy and Stacy kicked us off with is all of our goals are really grounded in this notion that we're a learning community. So our first goal, focusing on learning, second goal, focusing on community, and then third goal, really us as the staff members and adults in the room becoming a learning community ourselves. So really, really grounded in just those 2 words, a learning community. So there really isn't too much of a change because those things are at the core of every school site. For our student-centered learning goal for this year, something just to kind of pick through all of those words as like a highlight or something that's different is that we've added towards the bottom where it says we're looking at instructional practices to ensure educational equity across all grades and departments. That's something that we added this year because we really feel like it's not that we're giving everybody the same thing, it's making sure that we at the school sites give every student what they need. So in order to do that, we are looking at the impact, we can go to the next slide. Looking at the impact of our curriculums that we're introducing or piloting or spearheading this year. For example, Inquire Ed for social studies and then our 95% phonics. We are looking at kind of the impact of that curriculum, looking at those instructional strategies on our student learning. We're really grounding our work in the essential standards. What do we want kids to know? That is like the anchor to everything that we do every single day. So again, looking at our data, constantly looking at our data. This year too, we want to dive even deeper and really looking at our student groups and making sure that we're not missing groups of students, that we are looking at what do we want students to know, how do we know that they have it, and what do we do if they don't. So part of the first goal, it's a really lofty goal when we're looking at student learning, is not just identifying the need, but then developing systems to address that need. So this year too, I know all of our sites are really focused on looking at intervention. So with that PLC training that we're taking our teacher leaders to, talking about what does that system of intervention look like for our students? Where are those areas or pockets that we need to hit a little harder? And what can we do within the constraints that we have in our classrooms with the staff that we have? How do we work together to really ensure that educational equity that we want to have at all of our school sites? And the last thing I want to say is kind of the vehicle that all of this happens in are our professional learning teams. So our PLCs, that is what is driving all of this work for Bullhorn.
Thank you. Goal 2, we had a slight typo here that we realized today. So it's supposed to be community of belonging, but we're just sorry.
It's okay.
So our second goal is community of belonging, which again goes with our district goals and then the district LCAP goals. And then you can see our site goals next to that. It's really just growing the strategies and the foundations that we've already started at our schools and continuing to support those so that we have those communities of belonging and we're helping to support students in all different aspects of school. Can you go to the next one really quick? So lots of these action steps, when we looked at all of our site plans, we had a lot of parallels and things that went together. A lot of supporting our wellness counselors and our wellness centers and the initiatives that they're doing, the lunch bunches that they're doing, teaching kids toolbox, going into classroom and the different activities that they're doing, whether it be zones of regulation or the toolbox tools that they use, but helping to support the wellness of the whole school. It's also things like initiatives with our student leaders. So using our older students to help and build their leadership skills and create that around campus to give them some ownership and also to create the community of belonging with them, from the kids helping out on the playground or helping with carpool or green team or student council that's running all the different activities that we have. We've also aligned when we're teaching our digital citizenship and cyber safety. We've made some calendars this year where we're looking and we're all ensuring that we're teaching all those lessons and the students are all getting that, whether it be through Second Step or Common Sense Media Education. But most of our action items are all doing with how can we help create a community where kids want to be, where staff wants to be, where everybody feels that they belong, whether that's with making sure to look at our libraries and our classrooms, that they are both windows and mirrors to our students, and that we are providing a community for them. So that is what's happening.
Megan, what's DEIB?
Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging.
Thank you. Okay.
And belonging.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Goal number 3, Eric Customer Press, Vice Principal Larry. Goal number 3, dedicated staff. I think this is like human resources and how we take care of it. It's how we recruit and we retain talent. And the one way we do that is by developing our people, which is what dedicated staff is all about. So one of the key actions we take here is through our professional learning team, which you've heard about through a couple of different colleagues here. I really think that's what helps keep great talent in our district. Folks are joining their colleagues and grade level teams and departments, and they're looking at problems in practice. Where are we seeing gaps in student achievement? What can we do collectively to do something about it? And then they have this wonderful development through the CAPS network, PD network. You know, sending a teacher 5 full release days throughout the year to get this incredible professional development and then empower them to bring it back to their teams and run their teams. This is a wonderful investment. And I know that our teachers crave it, desire it, and it's one thing that helps keep them here. But it has a great impact on our student achievement outcomes. Professional development, obviously, is something that we care deeply about in the Orinda Union. We kick off our school year every year this way. 2 dedicated days, and then we sprinkle our days throughout the school year. And of course, for staffing, we align this learning to our strategic initiatives. So if you would have come to the professional learning, which many of you did this year, you would have seen a deep dive into choir ed, social studies, continuing our phonics work, and then diving into our professional learning, continuing professional learning cycles, the essential standards work. All wonderfully aligned. Committee work is one way that many of us help empower our teachers and distribute leadership across our sites. We know that everybody wants a seat at the table, everybody wants to have a chance to guide school policy, vision, mission. We think that whenever we distribute that leadership to our teachers, they can own a certain nook, cranny of the work of the school site. If it's equity, if it's recess, if it's safety, if it's sunshine, planning the happy hours, teachers empower leaders work, and it has great impact. And then, of course, in Orinda Union, we value and we cherish our common planning time. We make this sacred. Teachers actually have the dedicated time every week to come together and plan what it is that they need to do to best serve their kids. That's how we take care of dedicated staff, and that's our vision for this year. We thank you so much, and we'd love to know if you have any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here and presenting. I don't know. Hillary, do you want to start off with
I don't
questions?
have any specific questions. I just want to thank you for, continuing to do this as a group collaborative effort, because it really just highlights, the, cooperation among everybody in all of our school sites and the common goal and the vision, from our starting up here to school sites. And I just appreciate all of this. And, we've been fortunate as a board to visit all the school sites now and really see a lot of these practices in action, and to see choir ed in the classroom, as well as, we had it here since last month, seeing the phonics instructions, seeing how that's being developed, and then meeting with all of you and learning as well how everything is kind of going, as set out here. So I just appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, ditto to that. I appreciate all the work that went into this, and I think your presentation here does not show everything that's in those individual plans, because those are
Yes.
dense documents. And they were similar to last year, and I just want to appreciate the data analysis that you did. That was very individualized to your school, and I appreciated reading it. That's helpful to me because you summarized things really well. And then I also appreciate the distinction between bands. I think that data that you get back from the state is so dense and just gets kind of popped in these big categories that aren't very helpful, but there was a lot of differentiation between like just small percentage here and there with, between categories and how you were going to address that. And I think that's awesome. And I think from reading them last year, like there's progress in the way that you're all approaching it. And I think having visited all the sites so far this year, like that's really visible in your classrooms, I think. So thanks for that. And then a follow-up to that, I think that it was Wagner Ranch. I think your analysis, Eric, included some writing. A fourth grade team might have done writing, focused on writing in their PLC time or in their common planning time, and you'd noticed an increase, an improvement in test scores, and just sort of surmising that there might be a correlation there. If that, I know individual schools are focusing on different things depending on the grade level, et cetera, but is there a way to share what those fourth grade teachers managed to do that could be across all of your elementary schools, or then into middle school where there's still writing and reading going on? So just how is it possible to share that, or would there be a time to share that and see those movements? Because obviously there's great work happening that you were able to isolate. Yeah, sorry, I'm done.
Yeah, so the PLT inquiry report we last year was all on that, and some of it pretty wonderful results on cash specifically. But at the end of the year, and I know Sleepy Hollow just did this, I think last Saturday, we invite our professional learning teams together to share out what they're learning. Right? What are you inquiring about? What have you learned? What practices are going to be sticky? What are you going to keep going with? So we did that at the end of last year. And it's nice to see this year grade level teams going up to one another and saying, thank you. I know your deep dive of the focus was writing last year. I see such big progress and growth. So that's one way we've tried to make it stick. We call them symposiums, where we bring our grade level teams together and we celebrate what we've learned through the inquiry process.
Awesome, thanks. We look forward to that on Wednesday.
Oh, Wednesday.
To Katie's point also, it will be great to even
experiences with life. We're all doing it at sites, and then what better way to share great ideas?
It's a good
This year.
PD session.
Yeah. It's like staff really excited about learning for themselves. So, I mean, our last PD day, like that was really, it's like a nice standout that we all came together at our individual school sites. Like staff could not stop talking about the things that they learned in the morning. So staff, like the fact that we're excited about learning, I think transfers to the classroom, to our students and what we do every single day. So all really good things, but love to have more opportunities, I think, to Patsy's point, like district-wide sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's awesome.
So I really appreciate the comprehensive reports. Amazing job. And I love that you said, Mabel, giving every student what they need. It's clearly, it's aligned with our values and goals, but also I love how you all put student voice within your reports. It's very important and critical, of course. I love the idea of distributed leadership and the cross-functional collaboration and leadership that you have with all the school sites and the teachers and the PD days. So thank you for that. And thanks for just setting the tone, right, for your school sites. It's very important. We see the amazing output of that through the students' work, as Katie mentioned. So thank you.
One thing I continue to notice in your reports and be concerned about, as you all are, is the attendance issues that, and I'm just wondering what the district can do to support your efforts. I understand attendance is very family by family and that each family has their own reasons for attendance issues, but it seems like as a district, we maybe need to look harder at what we can do both in messaging and in supporting the school sites in really making this an issue in the months to come, because until California changes its funding formula, attendance has a direct impact on the funding we receive. And of course, we staff to the attendance we expect. And so we can't alter our staffing based on who actually comes to school every day. So I'm wondering if you have any other ideas. I saw some of you had more elaborate thoughts than others, but I'm just wondering if there's anything more the district could do to support you, or that you best practices you could share with each other, because it really is becoming and seems every year to go up just a little bit.
I actually think from my analysis, we brought down a little bit, which we contributed to like our letters and the frequent meetings and the emails and
the barrage of it.
Yeah. And people just didn't know. I mean, honestly, the phone calls that I've had with families, they were just like, oh. So I think it's
There's an
more
education.
knowledge to families to know the early education with our TK and K families as they enter school, like this is school, your attendance here counts. Those types of conversations, it's different than preschool. Our funding depends on your child being here. So I think a lot of it is just a little bit of parent ed with that too. It was interesting breaking down the data too into the different groups that you could see.
It was interesting. It was different at different schools. It wasn't.
We're all like an orange, so I think the fact that feels, at least it's not isolated to one site.
Yes.
That's feel across the board, but
Yes.
I think it connects with our second goal. It's just like, we want kids to be at school. We want you here. We value you and that sense of belonging. We want to make sure kids want to come to school and tell their parents, hey, we don't want to miss school. We want to come. But I think to make its point, more parent time for sure, just even showing the dashboard more often and having that visual is pretty, it's pretty informative, just seeing it.
I still think parents are confused about excused and unexcused absences, and I mean, it's confusing, right?
But even that doesn't impact the funding piece.
No, it doesn't. An absence is an absence.
Yeah.
The other thing is communicating the difference between, if your child has a fever or has gone within 24 hours, that old rule, because I think there's people still who have that COVID mentality, and so communicating the expectations for if kids are sick, we want them home, but if they have a cold,
It's okay to send them to school. Well, and maybe we need
We
to.
have an attendance report scheduled for next board meeting.
Okay.
We'll send it to you, Cara. Council.
Thank you.
As a follow-up.
Thank you.
For the partnering. But we want to make sure that you see it. But we do have that actually already agendized, because it continues to be a part of education, and there's an opportunity there too. Yes.
Right.
It is, but we did notice TK and K groups were a much higher absences and then they swing back at the end of their career in OUSD. But for different, reasons. But Sarah and I are hosting the TK enrollment night, so that's actually a good slide and in immediate education to, attendance matters.
Right, maybe a follow-up.
Right away,
As we're
yeah,
entering
yeah.
the holidays, because
Yeah.
I know people
Right, yeah.
plan trips, people,
Yes.
and they don't really think it's a big deal that they're gonna
Right.
take the Friday before the break off or whatever. So just
Yeah.
getting those messages out too.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for all of the information and the thought that went into preparing these reports. And I love the collaborative presentation rather than each school. It's really a nice way to do it. And so it's great to see you all working together so well as a team, and that's clearly reflected in your staff's work as well, and your teachers. So we appreciate that.
This is, yes, thank you. This is an item for action.
Yeah.
So maybe we can do an action before they leave.
Yeah.
I know that they've been
Is
approved.
there any public comment on
There
this?
is no public comment.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve resolution, no, not resolution, that we approve the single plan student achievement for each school?
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful. And again, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
the
all.
work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You need to move along, huh?
It's okay. No, I just want to
Right.
make sure we took an action.
All right, so item C is our OUSD initial proposal on collective bargaining topics for 2024-25 with the California School Employees Association, Chapter 320.
Dr. Inglesby.
Okay, thank you for that. Last month, we sunshined our topic for negotiations with our certificated union, both the district and OEA. And this month, the district is presenting our top negotiations for 24-25 for CSEA. We expect next month CSA to present their topics. So what we have for the district is Article 8, pay and allowances, and Article 9, hours and overtime. Straightforward as that.
Great.
This is a public hearing.
Oh, let me open the public hearing. And do any board members have any thoughts or comments on this issue?
No, just thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
And is there any public comment?
There is no public comment.
Great, then we will go ahead and close the public hearing and request a motion to approve the CSEA collective bargaining topics for 24-25.
District.
The districts.
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the district's proposal on collective bargaining topics for 2024-25.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great, the motion carries. So next we have a request for proposal for multi-year contract for E-rate eligible wide area network and internet access. Is that right? Is that right?
Yes, and that's Kevin.
All right.
Our current internet service and wide area network service contracts are set to expire on June 30th, 2025. This agenda item is to seek proposals for the same, for internet service from wherever it might come from and wide area network service.
Any board members have any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it seems pretty
It's
straightforward.
necessary,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
We do need the internet.
Yes.
Yeah. And I assume there's no public comment.
There's no public comment.
Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the request for proposal 24006, the multi-year contract for E-rate eligible wide area network and internet access services?
So moved. This is Hillary.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, the motion carries.
Okay.
And next we have Mika with the 23-24 annual developer fee report.
Yes, so this is the annual report for Fund 25 Developer Fee Fund transactions. The developer fee is collected from the construction company, individuals, whoever working on the new construction or addition to their residential area. The fee was increased in May 10th, 2024. The fee increase last time was 2020. So 4 years after we increased it, and we split 70% at Orinda, and 30% with Acalanes. In the report, the revenue that was collected was the beginning balance was 854,000. And the revenue collected was 160,000. Interest earned was 40,000. The total revenue collected in 23-24 was 200,000. Expenditure total was about 400,000. It was used to purchase classroom furniture, TKK expansion, mobile modular setup. And at the end of 23-24, ending fund balance carried forward to this school year was 670,000.
And those funds can only be spent on facilities expansion due to additional students?
Yes, that is correct. And the last page of the report shows the 5-year financial report.
Do any board members have any questions?
No. No, thank you, Mika. I know a lot of money was used, relatively in the last year, but in looking back, actually kind of is remaining pretty level, which I think is a good sign overall in terms of when and how the money's being used.
I guess I just have a question around the consultant services. Split up significantly, I think it's on the last page.
That's the expenditure.
This is including like DSA approval and, setting up the new.
The electrical, I think, and all of the setup, right, for the portables.
Okay.
So like soft costs,
Yeah.
soft costs that come with the.
Under consultant instead of.
It's more like contractor, it says consultant because it's a 5-year report.
Okay.
The payment to the contractor mostly.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Good question.
Yes.
Any public comment on this?
There's no public comment.
Great. Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the developer fee report?
So moved. Zetta.
It's Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries. So is everyone doing okay if we move on to our discussion item? We have our demographer here tonight, and then we take a break after that? Is that good?
Yep.
Great. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hi, Mr. Reynolds. Thank you so much for being here. I think you always here for an exciting public comment. And let me just pull up the correct document. Well, that's loading. So last June, I think you were present here and maybe your counterpart, or maybe just you, I can't remember. Maybe multiple people, multiple Reynoldses, I can't remember. But we had a presentation around the kind of a follow-up study in where we were in our demographic projections, and then what did that shift in that area in a little bit of a boundary between Sleepy Hollow and Wagner Ranch, what did it do? And then the board requested a follow-up in the study to come back in the fall to see should there be a need for another adjustment. And the reason we selected to do it now in November is because we do actually an official census data in October. It's called our census seabeds to the state. So we have official counts of our current students that we send up, and that's what was used so that we can not work in projections for this year, but work in actual numbers. So here we are with a follow-up. So thank you. Let me know how you want me to go through this.
Yeah, we'll go through the first few slides pretty quickly. Again, we collected all the new data from Information Day and generated new projections and showed you some of the data on how things are changing. And so now we're looking forward to see how the changes we make are projected to pan out and whether or not we want to make any other minor additional adjustments. And so again, when we do our projections, we look at birth data for those incoming 4-year-olds and the incoming 5-year-olds in our TK and our kindergarten classes. And so in blue here, it shows us our historic TK enrollment. Those are our 4-year-olds. And the blue line is showing our birth data. And so we can see that TK has been growing because that's program has been expanding. Next year, all 4-year-olds will be eligible to attend. And so that's why we see right now with this year, we had 9 months of birth eligibility. And so that expansion could bring us up quite a bit next year. I think that's probably a little bit optimistic now that I'm looking at it. But for your district, this year we had projected 128 students would be in a TK class. And you actually came in at 131, so you exceeded our. So you're doing it, obviously you have great schools, you're attracting those 4-year-olds that are interested in coming to school. It could happen. We might come in a little bit short next time. We'll have to continue to monitor that. So the projections we're going to see might be just a little bit optimistic, but they could be right on track too. So we'll have to continue to learn. We haven't had a situation where we've had all 4-year-olds eligible yet.
That's right.
So the next page, once again, looks at our 5-year-olds. This is the data we're more familiar with. It's more consistent. And you can see overall, our kindergarten enrollment's relatively stable. There's going to be some years where it's a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. But the birth data, again, has been relatively stable. But we did trend up in 2 years out. We're going to see a bit of a peak in our kindergarten class. We did project 268 students for this year. And you came in at 257, so we didn't quite reach our expectations. But yeah, it's pretty good overall for that. Trying to use a crystal ball to figure out how many kids are going to show up, and it's a lot more difficult when we're looking at those younger students coming in. Because again, who was born 4 years ago or 5 years ago, things can change over that period of time. So our next slide, again, shows us the impact overall of changes over time. So in the green bars, we see our enrollment this school year by grade. And so we can see which classes are larger than others. Right, we've got some nice healthy class sizes in our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade there. And again, of our middle school grades, our 8th grade is our largest class. And then those blue line there shows us how many kids were in that class when it started school back in kindergarten. And so we can see our green numbers, our current enrollments, are slightly higher than what we started with in kindergarten. And so we've seen a little bit of growth over time.
So I'm sorry, thank you for actually explaining that. So for example, if we're looking then, I'll just take 7th grade. In kindergarten, there was 246 in that cohort.
Yes.
So we've picked up almost 30 kids coming along because we have this sort of perception that we lose children as they come into OIS. But actually, over the years, we pick them up and we don't go down in cohort.
Correct, yeah. None of your numbers have declined. But yeah, there are some smaller and larger classes.
Right, the bubbles move.
Those bubbles move, and that can sometimes look like you're growing or declining just when those grades move on. All right, so the next page shows our overall updated projections. So again, we're looking at 10 years of historic data and 6 years into the future. The orange is our elementary grades and the blue is our middle school grades. Yeah, so when you look at overall, right, this year we have 40 more students than we did last year. Again, all this data references the October enrollments. I know they vary throughout the school year. We're talking about October data here. And when I look at what we projected to what you actually had in October, we were only off by a total of 3 students. So our projections were pretty accurate. That's a nice record, something good to be able to brag about. So again, I think we had a good understanding of the different dynamics happening within your community and how those numbers shift from year to year. So next in our report, again, we have a whole lot of details in there. We do have maps that show this different school boundaries and which schools are attending and which ones are switching to different schools. So we can see those attendance patterns. Again, for the most case, most of the kids are attending their neighborhood school. There's always a few of the transfers. Then after that, we're going to go through the individual projections for each school. I did want to highlight each school real quick.
Sure.
So we can see what's happening. At Del Rey, again, relatively stable. They are seeing some slight growth. Again, we have that larger kindergarten birth year that's going to be coming into our schools in a couple of years. And of course, that will migrate throughout the several years. So they're growing just slightly, and again, they're below their capacity, but we have the principals still here. I would love to hear their opinion if they got room for another 5 students, 10 students, or 20 students. Because again, most of your schools are operating pretty close to capacity, and so they might all each have at least one of their classes that's full to the staffing limits. Our next school at Glorieta, again, relatively stable. They actually show a little bit of a drop. I think they're going to be graduating a larger class, which will actually bring their numbers down just slightly. But really, it's very stable at Glorieta. Next, Sleepy Hollow. Here we added some students from Wagner Ranch to help keep them within their capacity. And again, over the next 5 years, we're going to be getting really close to our capacity. So it's going to feel, probably already feels pretty impacted there, but they're going to be filling any nooks and crannies they still have left. And then next is Wagner Ranch. Again, we made that shift, but again, they probably feel like they're absolutely full this year because I think they have 20 more students than they did last year. Next year, we're projecting they're pretty much going to fill every seat at that campus. And then after that, they got one more year of growth, and then things look to be relatively stable. But you see where that stable number is at about, just under 550, probably close to 540, 530. And that is technically a little bit above their capacity. So again, do we want to make one additional change to keep them closer to that 500 number? That is something we'll show you here at the end also. And then next, of course, we have our middle school, Orinda Intermediate. Again, relatively stable. They are going to see a little bit of a peak in about 3 years. But again, it's just minor shifts as they move in larger, smaller classes and graduate smaller or larger classes. But overall, relatively stable, which is wonderful. We see so many districts throughout our state that are facing significant declines. The next page just helps us understand our school sizes. The red is showing our enrollment as of October. So again, the 4 elementaries, of course, Wagner Ranch was our largest. But obviously, our middle school is quite a bit larger than our elementaries. And in blue, it shows the number of students that live in their boundary. And so we can also see that Wagner Ranch currently has the largest population within their boundary also. And then the next slide really just highlights all the information on one nice visual where we can look at what our school capacity is based on how many classrooms we have, what our current and projected enrollments are. It's our 6-year projection. And then we have a color coding set up there to identify, right? When we compare our enrollment to our capacity, that's our utilization. And most of those schools are in that 80 to 90% range. And of course, we do have that 6-year projection at Wagner Ranch where they're slightly over capacity. So the final slide of this really identified the areas we had studied last year. We had 2 little neighborhoods outlined in the white boxes there. And in the what we had labeled as Area A, there's currently 25 students in that neighborhood that attend Wagner Ranch. So if we were considering shifting that over to Glorieta, which is the next closest school to that community, that neighborhood. Whereas Area B, we actually have 62 students in that. That area has more students this year than it did last year. And so that's probably maybe too large of a shift to consider. But again, I don't know if it makes sense to make a change right now. I think I'd like to see how those TK numbers come in next year. And if they hopefully fall a little short of our expectations, maybe we won't be quite as crowded as we're projecting. And maybe just that smaller change of area A might resolve the changes that are needed. So again, it's something we're gonna wanna watch. And
Is that essentially Pine Grove? Is that what area A is?
Yeah, it's right here.
And this,
Right
map-
here. It's this area right here.
and this map here shows how many of them go to a different school, right?
Right.
So I think, isn't it the blue dots?
Yeah, if they're
Go.
not, they live in that area that they don't.
Meaning, so already, so this is, I think, am I looking at the right area? This is the area right here?
Yeah.
Yes. So that's, because this is Wilder, right? And then, so this is the area, so we already have.
Is that like Lost Valley area or not quite? Or is that?
It's like by Alma Music and
Oh,
up
yeah.
there, that Oak, Barbara,
Yeah.
Spring Hill Pool, that area.
So then there's quite a few students already going to another site, which I think they're going to Glorietta. I moved up. I went to slide 7.
Oh, okay.
Is it split? So some are going to Wagner and some are going to Glorietta?
Well, all the red dots are going to Wagner because they're supposed to.
Right.
And then the blue dots have decided to transfer to
Or are they
Glorietta.
TK students?
I'm sorry?
Are they TK students though? That-
That I don't know.
I think we'd have to.
That would be interesting.
Right, and
They're different grade levels, right? I don't know how many.
And they can-
Well, we didn't transfer Wagner kiddos to Glorietta, so no. No, because Wagner goes to Sleepy, Glorietta and Del Rey is transferred between each other.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right here. Right. This neighborhood right here.
The A.
The A, yeah.
And B
Oh.
is that
Like
Oak,
Altoona.
Barbara.
Yeah.
No, it's on the other side of the freeway. Yeah.
Oh.
We're here.
Area A is on this side of it.
This is area A.
That's what I'm talking.
Area B is on the side of the freeway where Glorietta is.
Yeah, by Alma Music and back.
You go up the hill.
Yeah.
Your point is that maybe it's less than 60 something? Is that what you're?
Well, you're saying that's how many are right now. I'm just saying that there's already over, many of them already selecting to go to Glorietta.
Well, and it
Because
takes,
you're not crossing the
Right.
freeway.
I mean, it takes time, so unless we want to tell students to change schools, you're really just talking a little bit at a time for the students who are new to the district to not go to Wagner. And so it helps if you really do want to make the change to do it a little earlier rather than waiting, because you're not going to get 62 students the first year. You may get 5 or 10, and then their siblings, and, it takes a little while.
Because 65 students going to Glorietta
Too many.
We
would
don't have the
push,
space for that.
we would push them
Right.
for the
So
capacity.
it would just be new students.
To clarify, of the 62 that are in that pocket B,
Mhm.
is that total and some of them are at a different site and some are at Wagner, or there are 62 who are currently at Wagner? Okay, so it's
in
not,
addition to
it's
the.
in addition to the red, no,
Right.
yes.
That's what you're-
And so the question, I think, is, did we want to make a change so that new students, which would presumably be younger, TK and K, instead of starting at Wagner, would start at Glorietta or Del Rey, but those still have impacted younger classrooms. I mean, I think our capacity is more in the older grades, not in the TK, K grades.
I think it's hard to draw the line with just new students though, because you have a community of kids there. I mean, you
Well,
want,
that's what we did before.
but this is a larger area.
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of upset people.
I'm not,
Mood students.
yeah, I mean, we're not taking any action on this.
No, I
tonight.
don't.
No, we're just discussing.
Yeah.
We could actually also do what we did with that area of Sleepy Wagner for a while and just offer, I think we did like soft,
Mhm.
I don't know what we called it.
Yeah.
Where every enrollment actually send a letter, we would, encourage you to attend Glorietta as an entire community due to capacity at Wagner.
Unless they have a sibling or something. Yeah.
No, they actually had an option to stay at Wagner. We just encouraged all of them to go. And then
And some chose.
it almost became like a default with some staying. Because actually ideally you would move the 25 students,
Right.
but it's a weird to have that section go to Glorietta while the one that's closer to it, not.
Right.
But Wagner's not, we can't leave Wagner as is.
Busting at the seams. So
I mean, we can't, yeah, clearly.
can't put more.
I mean, I think the soft idea of sending the new families a letter saying that, you know, you have this option might be a good start, see what people say.
Yeah, it's a lot of students there in section B. Location wise, if I was a parent, I prefer to go to Gloria.
Yes.
Just saying.
And they may.
It's actually really
And they
pain to go
may.
down that way. And also just hard to tell with this data what grade levels we're talking about in there. It's probably younger. Home turnover, but I don't know.
Those addresses and their grade levels, right? But
Right, but we're not at this time talking about
that'd be
changing.
great. Okay, so we'll do that as a follow-up.
And I suppose that a soft kind of option, that's to kind of explore something altogether different in terms of giving a full option. So you might have people who for the commute would prefer to go to Glorietta and some who just because they're already at the school would prefer.
And what is your suggestion to us?
Sorry, can I ask a question about?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
Also, is there an option to not have B be quite as large? Because the way this is right now, you'd have families living across the street from each other going to different schools. At least the way I'm looking at this way, if I'm blowing up this line. Just taking a look at it to really make sure that you're not dividing it in that way.
Yeah, it's a challenge on how to, draw the lines with some of the way that your communities are
Right.
situated.
Those hills and yeah.
I could
I guess they're going to different school as it is, right?
piece of that and, try and understand those driving patterns as to which ones would make more sense to attend Glorietta.
I think the ones that are near Steinway, which comes right down to Logaway, probably would be easier for them
To make
to make a right turn
It's
and to
easier
go
to
to
make a
Glorietta
right,
than to
yeah.
make a left. So
That's true.
they might be interested in that. I think these streets all have ways to wind around back down that way. They're a little windy, but it's an option.
Yeah, like, does that triangle at the bottom, can that actually be moved to Delray? They're sitting on the Delray line. I don't know that area well enough in terms of.
I know some families are
complicated it would
already
be.
at
Choosing that.
Delray. Yeah, but right there. So.
But Delray is gonna be at capacity too, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to redistrict kids, children to
Probably want
Delray.
Glorietta.
Just not all of them.
Right. Well, and I feel like if you invite the new families to go to Glorietta, then you are really inviting the younger students, right? Because most families who move in before their students start.
So when tomorrow or Wednesday you have your enrollment night,
No, right after Thanksgiving break.
right after
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
in December.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then is there another one in the spring?
There's TK nights and yes, for
You don't
specific
have a
schools.
Real.
We start enrolling students in December, so we will know where they're enrolling into.
Okay.
We try to get it done early.
And when they come to you and they have their address and then you tell them what
They
school-
submit it into, as they enrolled, the school finder tells them where they go.
where they go.
It's automatic.
So there's no way to change the school finder to give the people in that area an option, given your
The school
address. you can
finder is
choose between
dependent
these two
on
schools.
the demo, schools
Because we
have
would have to
have it in there.
Decision that
But,
district to have.
oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
You know, if there's some
yeah.
Change
soft
that.
option in school finder to make it, no.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
a couple districts in our state actually have some neighborhoods where they get a choice, if you want to go.
That's what
That's what we're talking about.
Angel was just, so it's not necessarily in the official school finder, but in Aries, as they're registering, Angel was saying you can actually give them 2 school options. Which,
That's helpful.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
could play around with that and see what that would look like
Mhm.
with the wording.
Yeah, I think it would be good, like Katie said, to get information about the ages of these students as well. I mean, obviously people move in and out as well, but in terms of the numbers that we have here.
So, kind of as a follow-up in that area B, who are those blue dots that are already out? And are they in Del Rey? Are they in which schools are they? And I'm assuming it's Glorietta and Del Rey mixture. I can't imagine they're going to Sleepy Hollow. That would be, right, but it would be great to know what's the divide? And then what are the grade levels? So you already have that information, right? That would be great. If you can send that, then I can put it up in a board follow-up, yeah. And then we can look at what that would look like in the enrollment time and send that, like, this could be the writing as they log in. Kind of as a soft option, soft encouragement.
Because we did have people.
And that's
like
how it
from my
was at
neighborhood
Sleepy
who
Hollow
picked
for a
Sleepy
while
Hollow.
until we officially made the decision.
Right.
Mhm.
I just think we have to be clear with that community though, about what we're doing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's not a mandate. We're encouraging you to.
And there's not a benefit to going to this school or that. It's purely based on numbers and our capacity.
The only other issue is the bus, because currently the bus service
Yes.
goes to Wagner Ranch from that neighborhood. And I don't know what route that is or where the bus goes there. I can find out.
Okay, that'd be great, actually.
Yeah, I can find out from Whitney and give it to you.
That is important information for having people choose. So you
Right,
might make a
yes.
decision based on the bus.
Right.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if the bus is all the way down like by Wells Fargo or if it actually goes up into that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Because
think
there were
either.
neighborhoods
It's a
where
tough
years
neighborhood to go
ago, the
up.
bus
They
had to
stop.
stop going.
That was Altoona now.
I know it was, but it was also Charles Hill, and it was also, there were others, so.
I think the extra data would be helpful. And I think having that prior to deciding whether
Anything
this option
changes?
becomes, an option this year. Because to Hillary's point, I do worry that an option can be misread or kind of, this school over this school because of X, Y, or Z, and just kind of some unnecessary competition between schools. Or then where do you draw the line when you do reach capacity and you no longer have a choice, then you get your second choice. So that wording would have to be really clear. And I think just understanding who these 62 are, if there's another way to cut the line, so it's a more reasonable number that will automatically move to Glorietta as opposed to that whole area. I think we should mess around with it a little bit more before deciding on a soft option.
Yes.
I don't really think we should be looking at option A though.
I think that's a tough location to,
Yeah.
just commuting wise, going that way is difficult.
Yeah, that's my feeling as well.
Okay. Our TK enrollment begins on the 16th, so we would not have another board discussion. But we can gather input individually as we send out the data. Okay. We've kind of proposed, we're not changing anything, there's no action. It's just
Yeah,
that would.
yeah, and I think based on what we're looking at here, I agree with Cara that you need like a pretty long runway to not end up with an overfull Wagner Ranch. On the other hand, you have several years before you have 1 year.
Well, we're gonna have to deal with TK enrollment for next year because that's a whole separate facility issue. So we have to examine that too.
I think on this, if you do a soft, kind of choose your choice, you get a better understanding from that area as well.
They
of
think.
what they actually would prefer.
Yeah, which is important. Because it's hard, people have ideas about where they'll be going and, oh, I bought my home thinking I'm going to one school and not,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I did run one additional calculation. I can't remember if you asked me about this most of it.
Please.
We finally got all the final data in from the census.
Mhm.
Again, that's 2020 data, so a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But the calculation, I'll hand this to you if you want to have that information. A lot of different calculations I did on this page.
Great.
And basically it highlights the information from the census in comparison to what your enrollment was in 2010 and 2020 and how things have changed over
Oh,
time.
great. I
The
think we
key-
did ask about that a
The
while
key-
ago.
Yes.
The key thing it highlights here is back in 2010, you were educating 96.5% of the students within your boundaries. And now in 2020, right, 10 years later, a lot more competition in education. And you're still at 95.2% of the children that live in your community being educated by your district. So if we compare that to the county's at 81% overall.
About Moraga and
When the
Montana.
county, when you add in the charters, you know, they're still only at 87%. And statewide, we're only at 82%. And so your numbers are great. On the other version of this report, I added some of your neighbors in the county. So you can see that your numbers are very similar to like Moraga. They're slightly better than Lafayette, or higher. I don't know if it's better. If you don't have room, it's not better. Compared to Walnut Creek, they're only at 85.6%. So you've got your community that supports your schools.
That's
significantly.
great. That's really good. numbers. And thank you for running those comparables too, because that's important for us. Yes. We will scan this and send it because there's only one copy.
Thank you.
Yep, a couple copies.
Thank you so much for
Really, really
being here
helpful.
tonight and bringing all this information, and continue to look forward to working with you.
Great. Yes. Thank you so much. And thank you for being patient. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love sitting and listening.
Yeah, and seeing the kids, right?
Understanding the numbers.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So this was only for discussion. I assume we don't have any public comment on
We
this
don't have
tonight.
public comment.
Okay, so I suggest we take a little break now. Okay, thank you. We'll come back to legal fees. after.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Time.
Yes, she got into Oregon.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's great, yeah.
I know, it's great.
It's great.
Yeah, super.
Yeah, so a lot of the others will come in.
Seems like we should.
Stuart, Vince, you started.
Yeah. All right. Always lots to talk about. Get on with the meeting. You ready, Kevin? Okay. So our next item is our legal services quarterly update. Tamika is going to present.
Yes. So this is first quarter, 3-month report. Compared to last year, first quarter, the total wise, it's aligning. Different category, general is less, special ed is less, HR is more than doubled, facility is less. We still need to observe how it plays out throughout the year.
I would just like to point out that it's actually really it's a student service component. Investigation under HR investigations are actually significantly down. So in the legal.
Yeah, no, I was confused at first by this chart because so much empty.
Right,
from the
it's not
top.
finished.
That's only the first.
We'll fill it up.
Please don't.
Yes, the district continues to monitor legal. We'll continue working on lowering those fees.
I think we're doing better than we used to by a lot.
I think we're doing significantly better, and sometimes even the costs that are significantly higher were really unavoidable. So,
Right, and the one-time things that happen that we have to respond to.
yes.
With the facilities, is that like,
It's all part of the bond.
oh, okay.
It's all part of the
Side
bond.
of the contract.
It's issuing of the lease backs, the request for proposals.
Okay.
So it's all part of the soft costs.
And it's paid for by the bond.
Yes, the soft costs, we do, yes. Sometimes if there's somewhat challenges within the contract, we can't, but most of it is.
Does anyone have any additional thoughts or comments on the legal expenses?
No, thanks.
Thank you for bringing this to us.
Yeah, if I can just make one more
Yes.
comment, I think some of the actual also charges are trainings that we've put in. So there's a training in HR and Title IX. But we've also are sharing them with Moraga. We've learned that that's a good collaborative system. So we're splitting the costs there. So there is some investment in proactively too, so that we don't,
Which is important.
to minimize the reactive. So just making that comment.
Thank you. And it is great to speak.
And that's not distinguished in there. Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for bringing this to us. And then the next item for discussion is the OPEB guidelines and investment.
This is a report, quarterly report, first quarter report for Fund 71 OPEB trust account. District contributes 10,000 typically every year. we started with little over 1 million. And at the end of September 2024, we have 1.8 million, 800,000 increase. Since the insertion in 2007, the net return is about 5.62%. District net OPEX liability is 20 million. The recommended contribution the district should make a year is 1.9 million.
That's lovely. Probably not happening.
It's not much.
You don't recommend it that.
No. But just for the public to understand, we pay as we go. So we are paying the benefit to the employees that are entitled to it. It's just about how much we're actually funding this trust fund that's supposed to be there in case the district can't pay, correct?
Actual cost, monthly cost is pay as we go. So it's coming out of general fund. This trust account, we have enough amount so that the interest earning in the future will be able to pay the pay as you go amount, the goal.
You think there's some of it is actually that we're paying not only as we go, but also past retirees too, right? So it's that we're double paying. So I think this is supposed to take care of some of that, right? Yeah. So it is owned so that we do get to a point where it's just pay as you go.
Right, and not the past retirement.
Correct, right? That would be the ideal.
Yes.
But we're not there.
Not yet.
Yeah.
10,000 a year till we get there.
That's not, yeah.
Okay. Any questions on the board? Any public comment?
There's no comment.
This item is just on for discussion. So let's move on to measures E and I. First, we have our quarterly update. See that we have Vince from Swinnerton here.
Evening.
We're 5% completed. Download, so I get in there.
Thankfully, our project is much more completed than that.
Laying off it.
There's much less updating to do at this point
Yes.
until next quarter.
Next.
Events, it's happening. I'll do these ahead of time. Usually it's a little faster. Okay, here we go.
All right. So another quarterly update. Not a whole lot of change from the previous update, as most of these items have been completed and still remain completed. They are mostly in closeout, and we're proceeding through the closeout process with DSA, the state. So just small questions dealing with total costs. There was a couple of things that were being held up with the Sleepy Hollow NPR closeout, just because it was one project that is actually 3 separate projects with DSA. One of them, the classroom 17 and 18, was done prior to both us and Stuart and lots of people. So there were lots of information we had to gather from the contractors that have been long since gone. So we've been trying to get that information from them. They were a little difficult to get a hold of, but we're getting there. We're pretty near the closeout of that project. There's only a couple of items left, which we'll go through in the project updates.
Anything here?
So for the remaining E&I project status, we have a new year starting here. So for the modernization, we are in the notice to proceed stage. So the contractor has been given notice to proceed based on the previous board meeting's approval of the GMP. So they will be ramping up. We'll be getting all of the information necessary. They've already issued their insurance certificates. We'll do this policy. So we'll be dealing with these, getting through all of the administrative logistics of getting the contract on site. So when work is scheduled to start, there shouldn't be any hurdles to them just showing up and going to work. And then the additional project we have added to the bottom is the 30s wing renovation, which we have begun design of. On again, our master program schedule, that hasn't changed at all, as we haven't actually started the modernization yet. So should anything in the modernization shift, which we are really not expecting it to, we will also update this as well. So our budget overview for just Measure E. This has not changed much since the last meeting either, as we have not officially approved the schedule of values from Rodan, so we can distribute the funds and encumber them per bond measure. But what we did update is the expended amounts and the subsequently reduced encumbrances. So the balances have changed, but not significantly for both Measure E and I.
Okay.
So those are our total numbers so far. And again, we haven't fully encumbered the modernization project yet, so that balance will reduce significantly at the next board meeting when we have our final contract amendment to encumber the total amount for the modernization.
But we still have enough money to do the modernization.
Yes, that has not changed.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Still in the green.
Okay, just checking.
So for the multi-purpose room, again, this is in closeout. There were small items remaining. One of them, again, being the locks to the multi-purpose room, as the locks had an issue the first time. Whenever that happens, you get bumped to the back of the line. And there was a roughly 4 to 6 month lead time on those. They did get expedited. They are supposed to be here within the next month.
That would be good.
We'll confirm that. We're really hoping they get it in ASAP. A couple of other small items to address, such as just minor cleanup and a couple of pipes that you can have, but there's nothing major other than addressing also some power lines we need to address the routing of. So there may be a subcontractor coming back to deal with that, but again, nothing major that prevents any usage of anything on site as it's currently in use.
That's good.
And an update on the expenditures for that project. Again, we have just been updating it as it has gone down. The only thing remaining on this contract currently is retention.
Explain retention.
It's the contract amount held throughout the entirety of the project to ensure completion. So this contract held 5% as a standard for the district. So there is still that amount was reduced halfway through last year in order to pay the subcontractors that had finished their work at this point 2 years prior. So there was a concession made to pay out some of the retention to allow some of the other subcontractors to be released from their contracts to prevent stop notices from coming back to the district and preventing work from finishing. But the district still holds roughly $300,000 in an escrow account to ensure that they complete the work. Should they not complete the work, there are contract provisions that allow the district to continue to retain that amount, hence the name, to basically hold it over the contractor to make sure they finish the job.
That's exciting.
Student services building is in full operation. There have been some small warranty items. We're one form short of closing it out with the state. So DSA is wrapping up here. We're in warranty with the majority of the items. So we have a couple of issues with the hot water heaters and the sinks. If that's the worst complaint, it's not a big deal. It's not very big, so it's good to get the small stuff. But they are being addressed as well. The expenditures and encumbrances are shown here, and the only item remaining is the final lease payment.
Okay, great.
So mechanical and electrical, we are also just working through the final lease payments.
That's it. Modernization.
Right, and then to the modernizations, there are some updates to the expenditures as we have spent down some of the management and the design funds, but as for the total balance remaining, that will also be adjusted based on remaining funds. We haven't changed that yet, again, as we need to take a look at their schedule of values to determine how we distribute that amongst Measure E and I. So this will receive a major update once we have that from the contractor.
Okay. That was the last.
That's great.
But any specific questions on any of the projects or the modernization?
What's the design process that's happening right now for the OIS, the 30s wing?
So we had walked through with the OIS staff, namely principal, vice principal, administration, and as well as Ed Stewart, and with the architects to determine what was feasible with both time and available budget, as well as logistics as to how they want to utilize the space, how it's best put to service.
One of those items being permanent space for IT as well. And we had discussed all that. The architect and design team put forth some diagrammatic drawings as to what could be done. And we have actually since gotten our estimates back. So now we are in process of, we have a semi rough estimate to what can be done as to the space as well as the cost of it. Now we just need to figure out how we're going to implement. So that will be determined mostly by how the modernization goes. So the nice thing about this work is because it's an isolated portion of the 30s wing, it does not need to be done during the summer. It can be completely closed off and separated from the rest of the campus. And since it actually has 3 restrooms within itself, we may be able to get away with not having facilities that they have to, like porta potty parked outside in between the wings. Depending on the size of the crew, but it does give us the ability to potentially do that during a school year as well. So more flexibility, lower cost. And
Dollars that we're what do we set aside
What,
for?
1.8 million or something?
We had roughly $2 million in total for the projects, and about 1.7 million of that was earmarked for construction. So we're looking at current cost without any of the furniture and equipment is somewhere at about 1.1 currently. And we also won't know what the lead times are and the cost will be on the furniture requested for things like the book storage and other items that are requested by the school. So we'll have but it is looking promising.
Great, thank you.
Hoping to just kind of on that one side where used to be staff room and a workroom, to have that as a indoor eating area for our students, but kind of a multi-purpose.
Student union.
Yeah. And on the other side, there's offices that are there that would we just wouldn't be able to take down all those walls. So that's why we're looking for a permanent technology area, because we can't take all those networks down anyway. So, and that's where the storage for that work is. And then where the old offices, really, we don't have a book room. We don't have book areas for the OIS. So could that be, with the movable shelving and those.
For like textbooks?
Textbooks, yes.
Not
So
library books, textbooks.
No, textbooks. Yeah, so we're just looking at that, yeah. Kind of,
Seems
yeah.
reasonable.
Being creative.
Yeah, because for us to really monitor the textbooks and what's going in and out, we don't want them all over the place. You want a centralized location, so that actually would be an inventory and a cost and an efficiency thing, yeah. So when you say bookshelves, that's Vincent's talking about those. The really rolling ones that you can fit in, yeah. I envision them because that's what I had in the school.
When it's time, is it possible to see some mock-ups of what that's going to look like, or some, like, just a visual of how that space may come together before?
We can do the plans. You have the plans right now. We don't have the pictures, but we have the plans of what that's going to be. Yes, I can send that to you. We have this, yeah. Actually, I send them. We have a public comment.
Can I ask a question?
You can have a public comment come up as a public comment.
Please do.
Sorry.
Question.
That's okay.
Anita, and my question is, if you do it during the school year, because I think there are some language classes in there, where will those classes go to? Is there room on campus to move them to other parts?
And the noise. I was thinking about the noise of construction during the school year. Would that impact other classrooms? Thank you, Vin.
It could potentially. Again, that is a discussion to be had with
The contractor.
the staff and the contractor, and their ability to possibly do swing shift work. They could work at a swing shift if they desire to, or if it was small enough and they did not mind the extra time, depending on how we procure the contractor, it could just be a 4-hour day job where it was only done after school hours for a small amount of time over a more extended period. Also, they could put in sound barriers, but that would probably be cost prohibitive. And then there's the possibility of, if there is swing space, if the 2 classrooms within that hall could shift to a different location for 1 semester. That is also a possibility if they were willing. Again, we're in the very early phases of trying to figure out the logistics. Part of the determination to try to maybe do it during the school year was to reduce costs. And the other consideration was we generally don't like to stack two different contractors on top of each other during this
Summer when it's
during
crowded.
so it creates issues of limits of work. One contractor might blame the other contractor for doing something, or they did it, not me. There's lots of juvenile finger pointing sometimes, but we try to avoid that if whenever possible. But since the 30s wing is quite isolated for that portion of the summer, if we waited till we won't be able to do it this summer. But if we were willing to wait another summer to do it, it may not be as bad, since that would be the contractor would be on the other half of the campus and they would be totally separated. But again, it's very, very early on, and there are no hard decisions yet.
But all that will be taken into account when we're discussing.
We'll be sure to coordinate with all the school staff, any faculty necessary, as well as the administration.
Great.
I just had a question in terms of the timing of the modernization projects. I mean, I know we visited all of our school sites recently, and there's definitely concern by some of the site administrators about getting everything done during the summer and making sure that we have windows and everything that we need to open school again. So just would love a little bit of reassurance that we think we can get it all in.
Yes, this was discussed at length during the procurement with Rodan. One of the things that was made clear was we would definitely require them to have multiple subcontractors on hand, so that they wouldn't be putting all their eggs in one basket, where if any one group or any one crew was lagging behind, they had the resources and contracts already available to bring more or different people on site to ensure the work was progressing as scheduled. So we'll definitely be maintaining a very, very close eye on the schedule as the work progresses. They are very clear and aware that obviously this work, school can't start with
Exactly.
4 walls, not 3.
They've also, if I can jump in there, have also been very proactive, doing a lot of investigative work, where they're doing windows where they think there may be issues, coming in during the breaks. Over the Thanksgiving break, they're going to be putting a camera in and locating where all the plumbing lines are, so there shouldn't be any surprises.
That's great.
So they are doing what they can to get ahead of the game to set themselves up for success.
That's great.
It's great to hear. Thank you.
We've also worked with them to identify any specific areas where they may encounter hazardous materials based on the age of the buildings. Another item further down the agenda, but again, that's another item that we are ensuring is done before the work even starts, to ensure that there are as few hurdles as possible to them completing on time.
Great.
So,
It's exciting. Any other questions? Great. Well, this is a discussion item. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Providing this update. Okay, and appreciate it. So I guess we'll move on to item B, the increase for lease interest payments 1 and 2 to Overa.
yeah, thanks. So the original purchase order that was issued to Overa when the contract was initially signed did not account for the lease payment interest when it was issued. So the PO needs to increase by a small amount to cover the 2 interest payments being made before the buyout that was approved previous board meeting can take effect. So that is, the amount is basically the interest from the first 2 payments, but nothing more.
Okay.
It was pretty straightforward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so that is an action item. When someone make a motion to approve the increase for the least interest payments 1 and 2 to Overa.
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the increase of, am I on the right thing here? $4,683.99 to the purchase order to cover interest on the first 2 lease payments in the contract.
This is Etta, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that motion carries. Next, we have additional charges, MWC and Associates.
So this is for the inspector of record for the Sleepy Hollow NPR project. A previous change order was approved. Unfortunately, there were 2 things that were not taken into account when the inspector provided that. The first one is the additional delay to the fire alarm inspections that would have to occur due to bail arm being pushed into the holiday break to complete their work. The second was the initial amount of the change order for the previous approved one was sent assuming that it would be an amount above the outstanding invoices, not including them. So because the outstanding invoices had yet to be paid pending that change order, they were not taken into account when they were sent. So there's an additional amount above that. So that includes both the amount from the delay from the fire alarm as well as the outstanding invoices that had yet to be paid at the time of the previous change order. So this is the final change order to close out the MPR project and get the IOR to completion.
Anyone have any questions?
No, thanks.
Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the estimated additional charges from NWC Associates not to exceed $15,510?
So moved. This is Katie.
I'll second. This is Hillary.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. That motion carries. Thank you. The next, we're on the hazardous buildings materials survey.
So this is a contract to Terraphase to bring them back out to perform a hazardous material survey at all 5 sites. These are all sites that were previously identified by us on several walks with Rodan during the investigations for the modernization project. So these are all potential areas that hadn't been identified previously in either the MPR project or the previous mechanical and electrical upgrades to all the campuses. So there is no current data on them to prevent any, obviously, exposure of hazardous materials and to have a better idea as to what type of controls the contractor may need to take. We're recommending that this be approved to allow Terraphase to come in, sample, and provide a report on all these potential areas with hazardous material.
And are you confident this will cover all the potential areas with hazardous material, or are you going to come back later and say, oh, well, there was another one over here and another one over there?
There is always a possibility that we may find something else, but this does cover
Just asking.
the vast majority of areas that we do potentially believe that they may find hazardous materials.
Such as what, asbestos, lead paint?
Asbestos, transite, it can be found in the adhesive in the backing of tiles, underneath carpet, sometimes in the gypsum board that's used as backer, various materials depending on the age of the building, as a lot of these buildings are kind of a hodgepodge of construction.
Yeah.
Some parts look newer despite, one side of the wall looks new while the other side of the wall
Isn't so new.
So you're kind of not sure what's in the middle, so you kind of need to find out.
Okay.
And obviously, if you suspect hazardous materials, they can't do exploratory demolition to find out themselves because, if there may be asbestos behind that wall.
You don't want them exposed.
You can't start digging unless you get it.
Exactly. And also, these are tentatively scheduled to occur during the winter and Thanksgiving breaks as to not have any children in school during these times.
Good.
So
Or
in case
staff,
anybody
yeah.
wondered about that.
Always, yeah. Great.
And it's just extremely valuable to have this information now. That way, should we need to do any mediation, it's a lengthy process to do it. It's a lot of setup, containment. It just really takes something that you would do in a day, and it would be a week and a half, 2 weeks to do that same work because of the process.
Right, so if you end up with surprises, then it could possibly delay your summer schedule, so you need to know now.
Better to get that information up front.
As well as the discovery of hazardous material, having a survey covering the district, it's a big risk mitigation, risk management step as well. So it's always, again, the steward said, it's good to have on hand.
Okay. Any additional questions?
No.
I assume no public comment. Would someone make a motion to approve the proposal from Terraphase Engineering for hazardous building materials survey related to the district-wide modernization projects?
So moved. This is Hillary.
This is Katie. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition? Thank you. Okay, now we're on to the notice of completion ADA compliance path of travel and restroom upgrade project at Wagner Ridge.
Part 2. The board originally approved a notice of completion of the September 16th board meeting. After that, DSA came up with, oops, you gotta do this. So we had to retrofit some grab bars at Wagner. According to the language in the notice of completion, you have 10 days to file that after the board approves it. So this is obviously extended us past that 10 days. So this is, we're asking you to approve the second notice of completion, which I plan on filing tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? No public comment. Would someone make a motion to approve this notice of completion? The Wagner Ranch Path of Travel.
And I move that the board approve the notice of completion for the ADA compliance path of travel and restroom upgrades project at Wagner Ranch.
Katie, I second.
All in favor? Aye. No opposition. Thank you. That motion carries. Wonderful. I think that got us through all the E and I updates, and we appreciate it here. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next, we have our board policies. Items listed under the board policy section are typically updates and new policies or administrative regulations that have been recommended by the California School Boards Association. These policies are generally acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There is no discussion of specific policies before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items be discussed and/or removed from the board policy section. It is understood that the administration recommends approval of all board policies as presented. Each item in the board policy section approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Does anyone have any policies they'd like to pull from tonight's list? Is there any comment or discussion?
There is no public comment.
And would someone make a motion to approve the board policy items 10B through 10G?
This is that I move that we approve board policy items 10A through 10G.
Hillary, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition, so that motion carries. Which is great. That brings us to our communications and announcements. Mr. Shannon, would you like to get us going?
I was going to say, I know it's late. It just feels late.
Yes, sorry, that's
I'll keep it short.
Thank
I'm Charles Shannon, president of Orinda Education Association. I've been doing this 16 years. And I was thinking about all the board members I've attended in 16 years. And it's been incredible. I want to say I have met the most hardworking folks over the years and have people come and go. I'm always so impressed. I see why we have an incredible district. In large part because of our parents. We see them every day volunteering in our schools. We're just so appreciative of all they do to support us, all the donations they make that are so necessary to provide all the things to provide a well-rounded education for our students. And so we're so indebted to our community of parents and others who are so generous. So I just wanted to say thank you. We had our council meeting tonight, and the big standout tonight was Sarah Costa-Landry, and we just wanted to make sure that you know how much we appreciate. Your meetings have been incredible, to the point, so organized. You start off with a way for us to connect, which we so need to do. You just lower that sense of like stress, because we know this time of year, as it is every year, a hard time of the year with all the assessments, the excitement, all the movement in our classroom, we're graduating, all of that. But we know the prize is coming up. We have Thanksgiving break, and then shortly after that, we have a holiday break. So I know we'll get through it, but we wanted to do that. Shout out to you because we know how much you care. You came to our district, you chose us, so we do attract the best. And we look forward to keeping this going. I've attended several of your meetings, and each time I'm just excited about coming to the next, and I'm not always so excited to go to another meeting, especially when it pulls me out of the classroom. So thank you. So OEA is getting ready for negotiations in December. I know we typically try to start earlier. Yeah, schedules, we're all so busy. We found 2 dates in December 9th and 19th. They're half days because we feel like we still need to keep our foot in the door in the classroom. Full days are hard for us, so we're gonna make this happen. We've had years where we were full days and it was really tough. It's hard on us, it's hard on our kids too. So we're putting kids first and we're gonna do these half days and make it happen. Brian and I have been able to talk. We're going to have some training. So we do a blended model. We do really what's an IBB, which is an interest-based bargaining. We come up with options, but we're doing this together. We share these interests that we have, and we really try to come up with solutions that are good for all of us. And so we look forward to that process. Brian does a great job leading that. So thank you for doing it again this year. That's what they keep saying to me. You're doing it again. Thanks. We are looking forward to our new board member coming on board. Thank you for being here tonight. It's exciting that we have a new into this. Sean couldn't be here tonight. He's the OEA's vice president. He's sick this evening, and so he did attend virtually for a while and said, I gotta go to bed. So he sends his love to everybody, but I wanna say thank you again. I really appreciate all of the hard work. It's incredible how much we work. But we know we do because we really care about the future for our students. So
Thank you. Are there any cabinet updates?
Yeah, and we don't have anyone from CSEA here or any comments, but I just had since it's seasons of gratitude, Thanksgiving's coming up. It is a great district to be, and we are grateful for our staff and support. And I know we'll be expressing formal gratitude to our board president, Hoxie, but since it is our last meeting of you being the board president, we just wanted to say thank you for all that you've done and for your formal leadership on this board. And I know we'll say a lot of wonderful things at the December reorganization meeting, but I just couldn't pass on this chance of saying thank you, since it is a season of being thankful. And we are very thankful for your leadership for the last 8 years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we wish you all the best. I say it on behalf of the OEA and the district office.
No problem.
But
8 years.
that's,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Cara,
much.
for everything.
It has
Yes.
been a true pleasure to serve on this board. I enjoyed not every day, but I've enjoyed most of it. There were a few tough days, I will say, in March of 2020. It was a little difficult. But
I don't remember that.
you were just working it out.
Yes.
But we have an amazing district, and it's been a pleasure to work with everybody and be a part of it. So thank you.
Well, we'll say much more in a month, but.
So I'm not acknowledging that till December.
Okay, good. Let's just let that go.
Yes.
Do you have any board updates?
Yes.
Not really anything I mean, we talked earlier about all of our site
Site
visits.
visits.
That truly is one of my favorite parts of being on the board. One of our favorite things that we do is just going to all the school sites. And
Going in
appreciate, going to the classrooms and meeting with principals and interacting with kids, having them show me their new ear piercings and, wanting to show me their things that they're I don't know. It brings you back to the classroom, which is really why we're here. I went to the mayor's meeting last week. Had to leave a little bit early, so didn't get the full report, but we did learn that the executive editor for the Orinda News is leaving.
Cordova.
She's retiring, so looking for a replacement. And then there was, long discussion about your exchange students. that you're hosting as well.
He's wonderful.
Nice. I went to the One Orinda meeting, which, it's always great to be a participant in that, and their fundraising is down. So they're kind of going through every possible way of reaching out and, hitting every touch point in the community. They're planning to do a mailer that hits every single household in Orinda. So not just school families, but, they have great leadership there. So I think that they'll be able to meet their numbers, but just, it was nice to be part of that. I think that's it.
We did meet new city manager at
Yes.
that was her first mayor's meeting, Linda Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm having lunch with her tomorrow.
Which is great.
I'm also not going to acknowledge Cara's last meeting.
Thank you.
Right now, anyway. We had a budget committee meeting since our last board meeting, which I think has been a productive forum. I also think the board visits were really outstanding, and kudos to the principals and the teachers, but I thought there were really high levels of engagement at all the sites, and I appreciated that. I think we actually saw the curriculum like across grade levels at each site, and then the same curriculum at different sites, which was really well coordinated and really helpful actually to see it be implemented at different places. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, I will be visiting OIS that's my assigned school.
Okay. As everyone has said, site visits, we had a coordinating council on budget, and we will celebrate you. Okay.
I'll just mention the bus because I always mention the bus. They are out for RFP for the next 5-year contract. They had hoped to get 2 bid responses and they only got 1 from First Student, negotiating with First Student to try to at least get the same rates they offered to Traffics, which is the St. Ramon bus organization. So that hasn't been completed yet. I think we'll get a little bit of relief from First Student, but we'll end up using them and there will end up being a significant increase in the cost to the riders. As people know, it's half funded by Measure J and half funded by parent contributions. And so the Measure J dollars aren't really going up. And so,
Unfortunate because it's already pretty significant.
Exactly. And you always wonder where's the break point where people are just going to say it's not worth it. We know without the buses, the traffic is even worse than it already is. So you have to balance that. They have a pretty good reserve and they're hoping, the Transportation Authority is hoping to use some of that reserve so that they don't hit families with a huge increase all at once, but can sort of use them to step it up gently, is the idea. So more on that will be coming when that contract's approved. And last time, 5 years ago, we got new buses. I don't think new buses are part of this contract, but we did 5 years ago get all new buses with air conditioning and seatbelts, which was a big improvement from the old buses. I know we've all asked about electric, buses and we still seem to be a ways from being able to do that. There are issues with where the yard is in Concord and the hills and our routes. And so we're still not at a place where we're going to have electric buses in this 5-year period, maybe in the next 5-year period. So that's the bus update. And
we're going to need somebody else to do that.
Oh, it's exciting and great. I love being on the bus committee. It's really fun.
Believe it.
And I've loved being on the bond committee. These are great committees. And I've really enjoyed all the work with families, with the staff, with Aida, with Charles, with everybody. So it's been an amazing experience, and I look forward to continuing the experience because I think I can bring to the city the understanding of what really happens at our school district and hopefully create more understanding and working together that way. So not really leaving, I'm just moving.
Yes. Shorter commute
By a block. All right, well, with that, move on to the consent calendar. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There's no discussion of these items before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It is understood that the administration recommends approval on all consent items. Each item on the consent calendar approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent calendar?
No.
And then would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the consent calendar.
This is that I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition, and that motion carries. Which brings us to future agenda items. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to future agenda items?
So I will just say December is our annual reorganization meeting. We usually start a little earlier, so I'll work on the agenda. Just so that we do reorganization prior to going to closed session. And then we do have our first interim, and there it is, attendance and absentee report.
Good.
So we are bringing course catalog. That is the plan right now. And then you can see, while we are honoring our English learners this evening, we do have an English learner report coming in, Basque, SARCs, and all sorts of other things coming in. Yeah.
Just in response to some of the public comment that we had this evening, are we going to be bringing our cell phone policy?
The cell phone, we talked about bringing it back. We just, and actually we discussed it as moving it either around January, as we discuss more around what to do with the cell phone, with this
watches. Right. I just wanted to.
Yeah, so we had that around January. Yeah, yeah.
And then-
But I'll be bringing up the rest of the year to the board, sort of to look at how it's spread out with the new president, vice president, to make sure that does it look like for the rest of the year.
And then there was also conversation about a special ed workshop. Is that what we had?
That's also planned out. I can't remember off the top of my head which month, but somewhere around March or April, we had a workshop planned out. Yes.
Wanted to mention.
Somewhere February or March. Yeah, I just can't remember. I'm
I
sorry.
think that's February.
It's yeah, I can't remember.
Just for future.
Yes, but it is coming up.
Okay.
Yes. So I will work on bringing, that was already in the plan of kind of the rest of the year. What does it look like spread out so we can make sure we have balanced meetings, the agendas. Yeah.
Great. All right, well, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Hillary, I move that we adjourn before 8:30.
No, it's amazing.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Be the earliest.
Pretty good.